everybody, and welcome to podcast number 79 of The Real Estate Show. I'm Cherise Selly, and with me is the incredible Benny Moo.
Hello.
Ben Day. He is the managing broker of our Live Sotheby's branch, and I am so excited to be back with you. We are end of the year, holiday time. Everything's going crazy, but thank you for taking the time.
Of course.
We're going into a quick moment because people are wondering, what is the market doing? And we have to give just a few stats before we have any other part of this conversation.
Okay, so are we asking the question, what is the market doing? Or are we asking the question, what has the market done?
I think, what is it doing? Let's talk about the dynamic time right now. What are you seeing, Ben?
So number one, there will be no predictions. As I like to say, there are no future facts.
Good.
Okay?
Yeah.
So all predictions guaranteed wrong. We can talk about what has just happened, and we can talk about what is just going on at the moment.
Yeah.
So the headline grabber in the local media was that we were nearly a decade low in number of units that closed last month. And there were just over 600 single-family home sales that closed in El Paso and Teller County. That's a small number,
That's
even
very
for
little.
November.
Right.
But it's also a very seasonal number. Seasonally, if you track back and you look at 13, 14, 15, 16, there was definitely a dip in transaction velocity in fourth quarter and in quarter one. And we got habituated during COVID to having a 12-month selling year. And right now what we're seeing is people are doing their holidays and they're doing their things. So there's a slow number of transactions that were there.
Right.
What I do that's a little different with the statistics that's there too, I look at only El Paso and Teller counties. I don't look at the PPAR published number that's out there because we single count our statistics. We have offices that are in Douglas County, and they count the Douglas County statistics. Take out the Pueblo, take out the Douglas County, take out the Fremont County stats, look at just at El Paso and Teller. And in looking at that data, the other thing that I do is on a weekly basis, I do a showing time report. Showing time schedules almost all of the real estate showings locally. And if you go back in time, I now have almost 4 years worth of data of showing time statistics that's there. It's one really long Google sheet. But if you go back and look at August, September, and October transactions and showings that were happening last year compared to this year, August, September, and October of this year, we're averaging 1,000 fewer showings per week than what we were seeing even in 2022.
That's incredible.
So we had an interest rate gain that happened at almost exactly the same time this year as in 2022. Right now, we've got about 5% fewer listings for sale than what we had at the same time last year. So basically the same number of active listings. But the buyer enthusiasm was tremendously muted August, September, and October this year, even compared to the year prior. So
interest rate driven.
Interest rate driven. And for the year, it's about, on volume, we're at about 28.5% down through November compared to last year. We're more than 40% down compared to 2021. What's interesting there is that this last month's sales, November sales, were down close to 30%. Not quite at 30%, but close to 30% from 1 year prior. But the big difference was that the pending activity was only off 10%.
I think that's an incredible contrast, Ben.
And so when you look at the November showing activity, the November showing activity was only off 10% from November of 22. It had been off more than 1,000 units, 30 to 40% August, September, and October. And then it was off only 10% in November. The point of it being the bottom of this cycle somewhere around here.
Right.
What we're seeing is like, it just is not likely to get much worse. No idea on interest rates, but we're dealing with the realities of where things actually are. And so those eroding trends seem to be less erosive. Is that a word?
That's a good word.
So we're going to say erosive as a word today.
You can invent any word you want on this podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you should. Well, and so also talk about this because I think a lot of people are thinking, okay, if showing activity is what it is, which is actually tremendously, that's so helpful to know. And the pendings being not down as much as what is actually closed before.
Right.
So we have pendings that are honestly showing that there is some stabilization, I think, happening. At least the bottom is there, right?
Right.
We don't know exactly where prices are going to perfectly go in the future, as you said. But I like the idea that it feels like we have a little bit of ground still. We're not people that think the entire sky is falling. I don't believe in that. I don't believe that everything is doomsday in this market. And I've seen through all the stats that you generate, there's a lot of, for me personally, as I review them, there's a lot of hope in the marketplace. Their prices have not fallen at this 20 or 30% rate, or it's not following the trend of lesser sales equates to a 20% less price for a home. I'm not seeing that in general statistics.
Let's talk prices for just a second.
Yeah.
Because there's the belief, and then there's what the data actually says.
That's right.
And the data confirms your belief. Because what we see right now is that over the last 12 months in El Paso and Teller County, the average sales price, if you average all of the last 12 months, so December 1, 22 through November 30th, December 1, 22 through November 30th, 23, it's $1,000 difference lower than it was the previous 12 months.
See, that's
that were
huge.
there. It's basically a neutral pricing that's there.
Right.
If you look at last month, just November data that was there, the average price for November 23 was significantly higher than it was for November 22,
Right.
by over 3%. The median price, okay, what about the midway point? The median price is more than 4% better than it was a year ago. December of 22 was a flame out month. The average sales price went from around $530,000 in November of 22 to $495 in December of 22. We have that number stuck in our 12-month rate.
Right.
So next month, when we close out December, that number goes out, and we have all of the 23 numbers that are there. And it will probably, I'm making a prediction.
Oh, there
but
you go.
it'll be neutral to just slightly up
Yeah.
over the course of the 12 months.
Right.
That's there for where pricing actually is. The sellers who are on the market right now, Charisse, they weren't on the market in 2022.
Right.
They came on in 2023.
Right.
They self-volunteered to be in this market. They know what this market was doing. They also, on average, have between 40 and 60% equity positions in their houses.
I think that's a very good thing to look at, and remember the equity that's sitting in your own home if you are a seller.
Correct.
Because it may not be the bidding war, because we're not in that place anymore. We're not going through that. But look at the equity. You still have historic gain.
Right.
And people are not there. That gain is not going away.
Correct.
It may take longer. Your home may have to be the cream puff to sell. There has to be more deliberate things done in this market in order to really have the home set apart.
Correct.
But I think when those steps are taken and process is taken, that's what we are here and designed to help people come alongside of the process, to help you with the process, to help the seller navigate through the choppy waters of this, and to really understand there are some things that the seller really is in control of.
Well, you mentioned the cream puff.
Yeah.
And the process. The last 2 months, 27% of the market were cream puffs. And the reason you can say it's 27% was that both of the last 2 months, 27% of the sales were 7 days or less.
Wow. Yep.
So you have this low number,
Yep.
and you're like, wow, those listings must have all been on the market for 100, 300, 900 days.
No.
27% were on the market less than a week.
Yeah.
So the buyers who are out there can still readily recognize that one.
Yes.
And they need to jump on it.
That's right. And those cream puffs, let's define what that means, right?
Right.
Okay. So if I'm selling a cream puff home to you, Ben, what would you be expecting as a buyer?
Something that looks like your home, personally, Charisse. Something that is sophisticated and clean and updated and remodeled. And like the consumer right now, when they're looking at the higher interest rates, they want to put as much of their money down rather than go and repair something.
Yes.
They look at a house and it has 6-7-year-old appliances. Those might be old appliances, but they're stainless. They're KitchenAids. Do all 4 burners work? You know, they look at it along the lines of the durability of the investment.
So true.
Because they're putting a lot of their own money into the house.
Yes.
And they also know the story from all of their friend group on how long it takes a contractor to get things done.
Yes.
And so they look at it like, well, you just paint this room. It'll take me 6 weeks to get a painter. That's an objectionably long amount of time.
Right.
For a person. So a cream puff really is pretty close to perfect. A cream puff is something that feels like a new home that's not going to have a lot of inspection issues. And what do you know? A lot of other buyers probably want to have that cream puff.
And it's not as hard to get there for a seller as they might think.
Correct.
Because we have an entire group behind us that helps. They can help establish that. We have vendors, we have people that are trusted and relied in this business that have worked for years in the industry and with us to help get homes established to these levels.
Right.
And so not every home needs the same amount of effort or work, but I think any of the effort that you were just describing, seller's going to be in pretty good shape.
Well, and one of our phrases is go slow to go fast.
Yes.
So that's the process.
And
Submit, take that extra hour of thought.
Yeah.
On the front side of things.
Always
be strategic.
Truly. Everybody that is they are reaping the reward of that. Truly.
Yeah.
And some people that think, I want to get my home up in 1 week. I want to take photos. I don't care. No.
Right.
That's absolutely unkind to you as the seller. Like,
your first showing is your photos.
yes.
And your second showing is your photos. And probably your 100th showing is your photos.
True.
So like you have to get those 100 views to get a showing online.
Yes.
And so the more that you are satiating the consumer with quality images where it's self-explanatory,
Yeah.
they don't want a difficult decision.
You're right.
They don't want to negotiate.
That's right.
They really don't want something that's going to be a long and involved 12-round process. There's people who do, but the majority of people really don't. They want it to be self-explanatory.
I love that.
When you ask a buyer, what do they want in a house? Things that they never say. Closed, dark, lots of boxy rooms.
Yeah, that's so true.
No
Ben.
view. I want my neighbors up in my business.
Right.
I want smelly carpet that's in the property. These are things they don't say. What do they say? The opposite of these things. Open.
Yes.
Sunny.
Private.
Bright. Private. You know, sellers sell the past. Buyers buy the future.
I love that.
And so they need to see a future that's going to take care of them. That's the cream puff.
Yes. Very well articulated.
Oh, thank you.
And the one thing you brought up that I think is so important for people to remember beyond just the condition of the property, it's the gift of time. Time is valuable. Time is probably one of our most important commodities. And so when a buyer has the gift of time given to them, when it's already done,
Right.
when they don't, I mean, because I think somehow, and I know this statistic isn't out there. I don't know how to prove it, but if anybody could do it, you could. But like, how do you?
What's coming next week?
Yeah,
I'm going to go figure out the formula for it.
Well, I mean, seriously, the formula for time, the time investment for the buyer, the fact that it's move-in ready. I do think there's a formula.
Oh no, there is
for
a
this.
formula for it.
You've got it.
We have it.
Of course you do.
So it's only been 5 weeks. You're forgiven. You don't know where that
my
sheet is in the
gosh.
closet behind Kim.
Are you kidding
But
me?
there is a sheet that shows it.
Okay. Well, see, I
So
suspected something was happening.
The flow in the pond is very powerful.
Yeah.
And so you want to come through the pond and you want to cycle through the pond. If
Right.
you actually go into a body of water, there is a current that goes in the body of water and things will cycle their way through it. And that body of water is the real estate pond
Yes.
that's sitting out there. And for the calendar year, we're seeing homes selling at 99.3% of original asking price in around 20 days if they have no price reductions. If they have no price reductions,
Right.
they're at 99.3% of asking price and they're selling in less than 3 weeks on median time.
That is incredible.
The ones that have price reductions are selling at less than 94% and in more than 70 days.
Huge contrast.
It's just a huge difference that's there. And so you're looking right there at more than 5.5% difference between the ones that have to do a price reduction off their original price to the ones that don't. And so the consumer, so often you're walking through it and they get frustrated as you're asking them questions. And they'll say, I'll know it when I see it. Yeah, they will.
Yeah.
They will. And you have to help them know it when they see it. Make it easy for them to buy.
That's right. That's right. You don't have to convince.
Right.
So, Ben, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I mean, truly, I love the conversation, and I'm going to have to get behind Kimberly's closet and look at all the good
yeah,
stuff.
We'll email it to you this afternoon.
I mean, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Again, another reason to be connected to Liv Sotheby's and all of the resources.
Make the process easy for everyone.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
The process will take care of the person
Yes.
that we're serving.
Sure will.
All right. Thank you.
Thank
and we'll
you.
catch you next time.
All right.